Okay, so we've been meaning to talk about RFK Jr. for a little while, and we actually we've got a reason to talk about him now, finally at long last. I
Oh
guess there were
boy.
reasons before, but the brain worms thing, we have to
Mm,
talk about this.
the old brain worm.
Before we get to maybe goofy about it, apparently it is pretty common to get brain worms. I was reading an article in the Atlantic about this, that it's like from eating pork or
Mm,
handling pork that hasn't been properly sanitized or something.
mm,
You can get this kind of innocuous worm that floats throughout your body, like looking for something to feast on, doesn't find it
mm,
because you're not a pig, and then it can like die in
mm.
your brain. And that's kind of probably what happened here.
Mhm.
But okay, aside from that, the fact that Robert Kennedy Jr., of all people, had a brain worm that was like eating his brains and then died in it is the most appropriate and apt and hilarious thing that has maybe ever happened in American politics. It is just so on brand. I
Mm.
absolutely love everything about this. Before I maybe rant too much though, like, what are your thoughts on Robert Kennedy Jr.? Do you have any strong feelings about him? I don't want to be too offensive about it if you do, but
No, 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 no. I mean, yes, yes, and
okay.
yes, and I don't know everything about the guy, so
I've got a
I
couple rants if you're ready for him, but yeah, okay, let's
I could be ready for it.
okay.
Here's my overall here's my overall like impression of the guy, which has been lightly gestated, so just take it with a grain of salt. I really like him.
What on earth do you like? Our buddy Sam likes him too. Our buddy Sam, I was
We like
told,
him for the. I already can. I haven't even talked to Sam about this.
yeah,
We definitely like him for the same reasons.
that he takes his shirt off and is
Yeah.
semi-ripped an old man.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
not shocked.
We need the fattest nation on earth
Yes.
needs a ripped president, dude. If we could deal with if we one for us, one
Dude,
for them,
Biden's
God.
looking pretty good for his age.
Biden looks fine. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm all right with
Kamala
Biden.
looks okay. Kamala looks fine.
Kamala, all right, she can get it. Uh, um,
Yeah, the dog shooting lady, she looks pretty good.
hey, oh, we got some fine ass politicians right now, dude. Old Lauren Boebert, dude,
She's not my cup of
snack.
tea. She's not my cup of tea.
She's a little snack.
I mean, she's not central casting for a politician, but yeah.
No,
All right.
no. Tight dress queen Lauren Boebert. But I digress. I digress. I do. Okay, look, I like the guy for a few different reasons, but they're all just personality reasons. And I feel
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
literally, I feel like one for us, one for them, one for the country, right? Like Obama, one for the country.
Mhm.
Trump, one for the boys.
I love this.
Biden, one for the pussies, one for the libs, you know, one for
This is
the.
some high level analysis here, Devin. This is
Yes,
as good
baby.
as it gets.
Yes.
Just fuck the fifth
I
column. Come here for
I
your
cut
political
right to the.
analysis.
You know, I texted you this the other day that
Yeah.
if our star keeps rising, I'm gonna have to have some journalistic turpitude, which I have none of right now. But seriously, RFK, just like a dude, just a guy.
Would you
Just
vote for him? Is he somebody who'd be like, eh?
yeah.
Oh, you
If
would? Okay.
but the thing is, if I actually think Biden's done a great job. Like,
Yeah.
I think a lot of the cognitive decline stuff is a little overwrought. Like, the guy has kind of always read. He's always been like, you gotta bleep this.
Oh no. Oh no.
He's always been a little hard coded.
Yes. Yeah. Well,
He just
yes. The gaff master.
I mean, yeah, seriously though. I mean, he just always has had like a public presence that wasn't perfectly articulate. But I mean, just kind of a consummate politician in all of the best senses of the word. You do get a sense from the guy that he's a politician for civic reasons,
Mhm.
which is like, I don't know, maybe he's the last fucking one. you know, and he's done a lot of good in the last 4 years. He's totally stabilized the country after Trump's insane failures as a president. You
Mhm.
know, the Israel-Palestine thing is going to get him in some hot water. Anyways, I don't want to go on a whole diatribe about how Biden's fine, and I will vote for him because he's done a
Mhm.
good fucking job so far. But
Yeah, let's turn back to RFK because I got
yeah.
some beef. Maybe I'll bounce my beef off of you and
Oh,
you can
please.
tell me
Yeah.
what you think.
Okay. Let me get. Wait.
Okay.
Anti-vaxxer. You gonna throw that one
Yes.
in there? Yeah. Fair. That one's fair. Keep going.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I have two main buckets, I guess. I can probably fit my criticisms into three main buckets actually, but okay, we'll focus on the first two. One is all the conspiracy theory stuff.
Yeah.
Two
I'm not.
is that he's a
I'm not
Kennedy, which I
stoked on
hate.
that.
And then
Oh, fair.
three would be just his presentation isn't gonna fly because of his voice, which is maybe unfortunate.
Yeah.
And maybe there's just something about the audience that he's going for
Mm-hmm.
is just like they're not they
Clapped
won't
out
ever be a
Florida
coalition.
boomers.
Well, there's no coalition there that he could
Right.
actually get. I
Right.
think it for
Yes.
how he's positioning himself. Okay, but let me talk about like the maybe it's my second bucket. I lost track of my buckets.
I think RFK is really big with like leather skinned fake tits chicks from fucking
Yeah,
Miami.
you're right. Okay, but he was on Bill Maher a couple of weeks ago, and kind of softball interview, and Bill
Mm,
Maher like first asked him like, don't screw this up basically, but like here's a softball question: why are you running for president? And his answer completely sealed the deal for why I would never vote for him.
okay.
And I think this is totally fair too. He said, well, Bill, like I've always told you, I always knew I was going to run for president. And
Hmm.
it's like, I wonder why you would think that is. It's like, oh, because your last name is
Because you're a
Kennedy.
Kennedy.
And like, we intentionally are trying as much as we can, like the
To
nature
not
and
have an
soul of this
oligarchy.
country
to
is
not
to not
have a
have a monarchy
nepotistic
of
monarchy.
any. And
Yeah.
like the move, if your name is Kennedy, is to like have it sit there in the background and like be there. And yeah, it's like a marketing thing for you. The second you lean into that, it is disgusting and I'm
Mm,
repulsed by it. I hate
mm,
every single thing about that. And
mm.
this is when my like red-blooded Americanism comes out. Like the
Oh.
Constitution and shit. It's like we don't want a monarchy and I don't want you just because your last name is Kennedy. And if your last name wasn't Kennedy, you with your DNA, who you are, you would be doing some other shit with your life. It's only because your last name is Kennedy that you think you have a right to this.
You'd
And
be
I
selling
loathe that so
you'd
deeply
be
and
selling
profoundly.
jet skis in Daytona Beach,
Yeah.
dude.
No, literally though, yes, exactly.
Yeah,
And
dude.
I hate that so much. I just hate it so much. Okay, that's
You
one
would
rant.
have you would have a 2 week vacation at Margaritaville every fucking year, dude.
Well, maybe I'll pause just to ask you, like, do you think I'm being unfair there, or I don't know, like, would you ever vote for somebody, or I just simply would not vote for somebody who just like has a dynasty attached to them. I just wouldn't.
Yeah, I won't pry you from your personal foibles on the Kennedy name, dude. I don't think that they've particularly. Yeah, I feel you. Immediately though, as soon as you start talking about that, I'm like, well, but we have like a nepotistic power structure that completely controls our society, and it's just corporate. So it's like I don't know that there's any difference really functionally in a certain
I'm
sense
I'm I'm just drawing a hard line. I see where
on
you're
at
going by hard
politics.
line. If you are like the child of a former president or the
Right, right.
grandson, you're done. You're not on my list. We have
Yeah,
350 million people. We got a lot of people who qualify. You're
Uh,
not it. You're
and
done.
no, and I feel you. And honestly, I have the exact same feeling on Biden, where I'm like, you were already vice president. You already had your hand on the fucking. You
I
already
think
had
that's
your
a
hand on the
fair
button,
move though,
dude.
because that's like a job when like that's a job qualification thing. It's like a resume builder to be the VP before he become.
Maybe, but if there's only 45 presidents, like total all time,
No, good point.
I
Good point.
mean, we need
Yeah,
a different
young,
ass. We need
fresh
like a
blood, man.
Yeah, we need like completely different people in every 4 to 8 years,
Fair.
like to recycle. Yeah, that's insane. But no, I feel you. Yeah, I won't disagree with that. Yeah, I think you're right. In a country of 360 million people, we can find somebody that doesn't have some kind of like political legacy in their family. That would be That would be helpful. It's unrealistic, but but it's helpful. You know what I mean? Just in the sense that like the political class of people is just a weirdly unique class of people with no other skills, particularly. And it's like it's a small section of the populace that could even qualify to be a politician because they don't have anything else going on.
To me is just so gross. I saw today that the youngest Trump son, who's now 18, he just like today became some ambassador to Florida or something like this.
He's an electoral college delegate now.
He's in the system now, right? Yeah. And they're just because of his name,
7 foot ass looking ass.
They're gonna just like keep him in the system.
Fucking
like they like his family and rich people. Like
this kid has the exact profile of like Slender Man.
Yeah,
he's like fucking like 18 feet tall.
Yeah. Okay, well let's talk about RFK's conspiratorial.
This is one that I'm undereducated on.
So much.
Yeah, I'm undereducated on this, and this could potentially disabuse me of my infatuation with buff RFK.
Yeah.
Please.
Well, okay, so the problem for me isn't actually the fact that he is legitimately, let's just call him vax skeptical, but like to a degree that it's irrational, and to the degree where he has been proven wrong about things and he won't just like acknowledge that.
Yeah.
It's not just that. It's not just that he doesn't believe the experts in certain topics, like when he says that AIDS didn't really come from XYZ, it's really this other thing and blah, 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 blah. It's not that like, it's not even that he has like a skepticism of experts. It's the fact for me that he is ready to jump on board any conspiracy theory. He just has that mindset that's like,
a problem.
Oh, whoa. Oh yeah, like let's look into that, you know. And
whoa,
so there's
whoa,
a meme
dude, hold on.
There's a meme about Joe Rogan that I think like articulates or this just perfectly, which is that 9 out of 10 dentists say it's good to floss your teeth. Joe Rogan is like, ooh, let's talk to that 10th dentist. You know, what's he know? You know,
he must know something the other 9 don't.
That instinct is great for bros smoking weed in college, but it's not great. And it is like an instinct that people have. Like I have family members who have this instinct. It's not a good instinct, guys. No. Like it's not. Even if sometimes these people are right and like God bless them, they're fun to talk to. That's not a good leader of the country to have that instinct.
No, wow. So you know, that's a great argument, and that's something that would totally disqualify him in my mind from being president, because it's just like the whole flex of being president in my mind, when it's done correctly, is that you're not really doing that much. Your job is delegator in chief. Yeah. You know, your job is to find all of the sickest, most intelligent people and to trust them more or less implicitly, because you as a person cannot contain a country's worth of problems.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. And that, like, if there's somebody like Trump that's down to just get sucked down a rabbit hole of conspiracies. And also, let me say this, on a personal level, Devin Carson tuning in to say something important. I am on a personal crusade against fear in my life. I think fear is the least useful characteristic that we carry with us still. It's an evolutionary holdover in a weird way, you know, and it's important situationally, but generally, if someone has fear in the seat of their being, that person is fundamentally untrustworthy, because it's just too easy to ring that little bell inside someone if it's just there to be rung. And then you have functional control over that person.
I think that's fascinating. What do you make of the fact that, according to a lot of pundits, the Republican Party under Trump is driven by fear? Do you think that that's true? Because I totally do. When he gets on stage, he immediately starts talking about how this is going to be the end of democracy. These immigrants are going to flood the country and destroy the country. It's beyond hyperbole, and it's to the point where he's just trying to like make a horror movie out of an absolutely innocuous facts of life.
Trump is such an animal, you know, like a truly like effective, like a beautiful animal, but but an animal in the sense that as soon as he finds something that works, he just bangs it until it stops working. And it's what's gotten him to where he's at, because he does have an extremely attuned sense of something either working or not. He has zero moral compass in utilizing that information, which is what makes him a psychopath and dangerous to this country. But I couldn't agree more. I mean, that's been my kind of diatribe against the Republican Party since the beginning of this podcast. I don't know if you remember, one of the first episodes of this podcast, I went on probably a 10-minute diatribe about how I'm tired of pussy Republicans and I miss tough guy cigarette smoking Republicans, dude. God damn it. Like I miss like that surety, that like intense traditional masculinity that was really damaging to a lot of things, but less damaging than the fearful version of traditional masculinity, which is its most werewolf form. You know what I mean? It's like it's a truly depraved version of political reality that is completely it's just burning fear as fuel, and everybody's getting sick from it, man. And it's repugnant. It's absolutely repugnant to watch and honestly, I'm going to say it both sides. It's not just Republicans. It's Democrats and liberals too. It's the polls on both sides that are using fear as a cudgel to police people into a system of thought. And it's like, fuck you, dude. Like, we do not need to be motivated by fear in 2024. We need to be motivated by everything else. Because the other thing is, fear makes you weak. It makes you susceptible to irrationality. It makes you susceptible to being appealed to in an emotional way with non-facts. You know, it's like, I'm on a personal crusade against fear. Everybody needs to be on a personal crusade against fear. If you have fear in your life, if your actions politically, socially, in your romantic relationship are being driven by fear, you need to take a giant step back and figure out what the fuck's going on in there, man.
Yeah, this is one of the weird things about Joe Rogan, and I think RFK too.
Oh, yeah.
Is that
totally.
I think that their reaction to the pandemic was driven by fear. It was driven by the fear of big corporations and the fear of the vaccine, which, like, Joe Rogan was terrified to get the vaccine. That's what his whole show became about. And he still is kind of like just about that I'm scared to take the vaccine, and I'm scared that the big government that I can't control, that also like makes me do jury duty and like has a lot of control over my life, it's going to like make me someday maybe put something in my arm I don't want to, even though like as a child you probably got 50 of these anyway. You know what I mean? Like he's scared. He is just scared, and he can't look at the fact that the vaccine saved millions of lives. Millions. He just can't look at that and accept that fact, like that actual fact of life.
You hit something on the head, because the Joe Rogan experience is now the Joe Rogan's personal fear experience. The Joe Rogan's afraid of. It should be called Joe Rogan's afraid of, you know, because that is it. And it's so crazy that you say that, and it codifies something that I've been feeling for years now. Because fuck if Joe Rogan didn't teach me so much about what I know about the human mind, the human body, by having beautiful people on and asking them extremely curious questions. That was it. That was the whole show. And it started, you're right at the pandemic. It is, you know, you started feeling that fearfulness and that lashing out of fear. Like, oh, I'm afraid, insert whatever, of the homeless people in LA. I'm afraid of the government. I'm afraid that Joe Biden is having cognitive decline. I'm afraid of liberalism. I'm afraid of wokeism. I'm afraid of what they're teaching my kids in schools. I'm afraid of all of these things. And he has people like Mike Baker on, which are just, they're the living id of fear. You know, it's just, and then they have this little cloistered conversation where they're like petting each other and, oh, I'm really afraid of this. And then the person's like so intimidated by his fame, you know, or whatever, that they're like, oh yeah, me too. I'm also afraid of this. You know, he's like, yeah. And it's like they're just jerking each other off the whole time, man. And it is all fear related, and it sucks.
And this is the thing that I really do hate about this current iteration of Joe Rogan is that I think that there's a little bit of this that's kind of fine if you do it in the way that you and I just did in this conversation, which is that you call out the bullshit on both sides. For some reason, Joe Rogan only focuses on the bullshit of the liberals. Totally there. I'm there for it. Hear you, bro. There's stuff there. And like, I just had coffee with a friend of mine who is like, I hate Republicans, I can't stand Republicans, and blah 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 blah. Like that's worse. Like maybe
Mm.
just as bad or worse, because like there
Yeah.
was like hatred, and I don't think that Joe Rogan hates liberals. I think he's just scared of them, like you said.
Yeah.
But like you got to do both sides because everyone is off
Yeah.
base, and we can't just be that tribal.
Mm-mm.
But yeah, I want to take it back just a little bit to RFK
Please.
and see if we can pigeonhole him in this conversation. Because here's the thing, too. You know, he does have some policies that I like,
Mm-hmm.
and then some policies I'm just confused with.
Mm-hmm.
Fundamentally, I don't even think he's a political figure in the normal sense. I think that
Agreed.
he's just a personality and
He's
a
a celebrity.
character. Yeah,
Like,
he's
like a
celebrity.
pseudo celebrity. He's like a micro celebrity and that's
Yeah.
how everyone becomes president now, apparently.
This is just how I look at him. It's interesting for you to totally agree with this. I just
Yeah.
look at him as a non-politician, but just like as a personality and kind of like
Oh,
this
yeah.
quasi-celebrity thing
For
who has a
sure.
mishmash of views that don't make sense and they don't draw a coalition. And I don't think
Fair.
that there's an interesting conversation about is he going to hurt the Democratic Party or the Republican Party? I don't think we know yet. And I think that it's just purely speculations. I don't have a strong feeling on that necessarily. But I do think that in some way or another, he is going to be relevant in the election.
Maybe.
And I think that it's going to be unfortunate. Like I kind of just low-key wish he would go away because he's noise in the system that isn't helpful either. Like Bernie Sanders was helpful noise in the system.
True.
It was kind of clear at some point he wasn't going to win, but he did push people in certain ways. Andrew Yang, same thing. I think he pushed conversations in healthy ways. This is why I just don't like RFK. Is I think that he doesn't push the conversation in a healthy way that's going to really actually benefit society at all. Maybe even it will push society to a bad place. This is what I worry about.
I actually, I was just reflecting on conceptually something similar to this the other day where I was saying, like, anytime somebody kind of puts their crowbar into the system, I'm like, all right, like being a spoiler candidate, I want to see that every single election cycle. I want to see somebody go, hey, there's this little party in Colorado called the Peace and Freedom, or whatever, and they'll run me as a candidate. And it's like, yeah, because we need to knock it off with the two-party shit. Like that's a patently absurd way to fucking like get people, like the DNC and the RNC need to be dissolved. Like the whole concept of the way that we structure elections in this country, I'm writing this one down because honestly, dude, I could do a whole episode on fucking how pissed off the election system in this country is and how irrelevant to the lives of normal people it is. And yeah,
there are systems in the world that just work better than America's version of democracy. That's just kind of true.
So
We do kind of know this.
dude.
They all have problems, but
yeah,
I think that I'm not an expert on this, but yeah, there are things that endlessly. One thing about America that I think is just like definitely a problem now is that we can't amend the Constitution. It's just like it's just too hard to add amendments. I think that that's a problem. And I think that the two-party thing is a problem. What worries me, and this is like, sorry, I didn't mean to like derail you on this, but like it does worry me that there's this big energy right now around destroying things without having a very clear sense of how to rebuild.
What's next?
So
yeah.
I do often push back on the let's destroy the two-party thing because the people who tend to be the loudest in that space don't have really great ideas for what to rebuild with. So, but no, I actually agree. I do actually agree with you. It just worries me.
Yeah, I just like conceptual, like obviously RFK as a person, complicated, multifactorial. But his presence as a spoiler candidate and just kind of being a democratic vehicle, a vehicle of plurality, you know what I mean? Like, I need that. I want that. It's the same way I feel about the kids protesting at college campuses. Whether I agree with them or not, every X amount of years, you need people to take to the streets to retain the right to do that. And you need to get pissed off when people are not allowed to protest, and it's like, people
We're
need.
always allowed to protest, though. That's kind of like in America, you can always protest. You just
It's
can't
because,
break windows and you
yeah,
can't stop traffic and things like
no,
that.
and I agree with that. It's like, yeah, you should be policed if you're fucking shit up. However, the reason we still can protest in the United States is because it happens all the time. It's not just like if we stopped protest.
I think it's in our DNA. I think that's we're never gonna not have protesting.
You're never more than one generation away from something going away. It's like it's in our DNA now. But if this country, if nobody protested for 20 or 30 years, the first time there was a protest, it would be, I think it
I
would
actually
be
totally disagree. I
completely
100%
suppressed.
disagree because we have, in a very good way, we have absolutely romanticized protesting in this country, and it's a great thing. We will never, it can be 5,000 years from now, if we're still this country called America, we are still going to have rosy sunglasses romanticizing Martin Luther King Jr. and that movement, the civil rights movement. We are all so deeply proud of the civil rights movement. And that was just the right to protest. And the thing that's disgusting, the bad guys there are the cops with the dogs, on the innocent protesters who are just peacefully protesting. And that, like, is so disgusting to Americans that an innocent, peaceful protester would be like hit over the head by cops, etc. And I think that's in our DNA. I don't think that's going away.
Fair. And I guess at the end of the day, it's just a thought experiment. But in
other countries, dude, I feel you in other countries, man. But like, I feel like America has this dialed in correctly.
I hope so. I hope so. I guess just as a general conceptual framework, protest, third-party candidates, like the whole kind of idea of a spoiler, I'm always going to be supportive of the thing that throws a little bit of a wrench into things. I don't want to see things. Me too. I don't want to see anything get calcified.
I think it's a true talking point that people like Joe Biden or Trump or anybody who's like the establishment, they gotta earn your vote still. They can't just have a D by their name or the R and then like expect to get the vote. And the third party is maybe like the only real force that compels them to still make that case in a meaningful way. Yeah. So no, I'm actually totally on board. I totally agree with all this. Yeah.
Yeah, and RFK as good as any. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, we just don't have.
It's so weird, man. Is he as good as it? I guess the third party candidates. Okay, question.
Who else? Who's top of list for you? Who would you? What politician in our modern cohort would you be stoked to see president? I'll name one.
Oh Jesus. Okay, you go first. I'll think about it.
I would be down for Pete Buttigieg.
Okay, me too. Okay.
I love him. Yeah, I like his whole. I like his whole thing. I've never seen him do anything that I fundamentally disagree with, and I like his attitude. And I think he seems pretty clean, pretty young, pretty sharp.
Okay,
and
that's not
a
bad.
Little aggressive. Yeah, go ahead.
I think that if I knew more about him, I could probably find some problems. But the fact that I know as much about him as I do, and I don't have like a lot of hard problems with it, that's good. That's good. Mm-hmm. Let me throw one out that's gonna be a little bit of a off the wall. I would say Mark Cuban.
Ooh, I would be fucking juiced.
His name comes up every now and then. And
I think, dude, honestly, Cuban is one of those Michelle Obama type candidates where it would be like 75% of the country would be down. Cuban is one of the sickest, like, rich dudes to ever exist. Yeah. Like, as soon as he came out with that generic pharmaceutical company where he's like, all those drugs that they're making you pay $10,000 a month for, well, they only cost $5 a month, and we're gonna charge you $7. Yeah. And I'm like, oh my God, an actual good guy. I was like, and you can't say shit about him. It's like, I don't care if this guy's well. I was gonna say some crazy shit. I don't care how many times this guy's on Epstein's flight log. No, but I
mean, what we wish for.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Yeah. Oh, Mark Cuban. I would vote for Mark Cuban tomorrow. I'd vote for Mark Cuban yesterday.
Yeah, me too. I totally would. And I don't know, like, he also has done so much in life and has been proven successful in so many different areas.
God.
And
everybody
he's like a
sucks
clear
Trump's
thinker.
dick because he's a businessman.
Yeah.
This guy's an actual businessman. Like,
Yes.
this guy's an
Yeah.
actual business genius.
And from what I know, he does actually take feedback from people. He's not like a
Yes.
god type figure who just like has that. Yeah. A lot of good qualities there. Yeah.
Good grief. Good one. All
Okay,
right,
let's
nice.
do Mark Cuban with Pete Buttigieg as the VP. Let's run them.
Oh my God.
DNC, are you listening?
We need
Let's run 'em. This is
fantasy.
our team.
We need fantasy politics. We need a fantasy like fantasy football, but for politicians.
Probably exists, right? Does it exist?
If it doesn't, that's an untapped market, dude.
I'm such like not a gamer type person. I wouldn't even know. But,
Me neither.
yeah. Hey man, I got to wrap this thing up.
Cool.
All right. Well, I'm glad we got our fantasy
picks. Weigh in the comments.
And I'm glad that RFK isn't on their team. So sorry, RFK.
No.
RFK, you're
RFK
off.
did not get picked for the team. RFK is like second string punt returner or something on my team. Actually, obviously, RFK.
He's in the stands.
He's O-line, dude. He's offensive line. Come on. You know, he's protecting the QB.
Okay. All right.
Oh, fuck yeah. All right,
Cool, man.
Pete.
All right, till next time.
Later, buddy.